Welcome into another episode of Everything is Logistics, a podcast for the thinkers in freight. We are proudly presented by SPI Logistics, and I am your host, Blythe Brumleve. We've got another amazing guest for you today, and
That's not true.
This conversation is already off the rails. I mean, we just started recording, so I wanted to make sure that I give you something as to celebrate your fandom.
Okay. A Jaguars.
Yes. Here's your own.
This looks used, which I really appreciate. So, like, was this like a game day giveaway?
It's a lot of turmoil.
Got it.
Experienced by that koozie. So I thought you would appreciate it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what type of experience happens in Jacksonville, but I know that I probably don't want my hands on it. But
it's a lot of emotional trauma.
It's the thought that counts. Yeah. Also a lot of urine probably, but
not urine.
It is the thought that counts. Yeah. I mean, I hope
but
not.
Definitely
obviously.
Alcohol sweat. That's
yeah, for sure. But it's the thought. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will use this on my. I don't really drink, so I don't know actually when I'm even going to use this. I'll use it on my...
your water bottles.
Yeah, there you go. My
water bottles.
Yeah.
And now for folks who are just listening, Ryan is a huge Jaguars fan. We connected
Enormous.
we bonded over the Jaguars. He's actually a Tampa fan, which just crucified my team last season. So we haven't really talked about the team, talked about the Jaguars since then. So it's a little bit of a sore subject, but we share that.
I don't like to kick people when they're down. I like to kick them when they're up, So, and just like remind them of how, kind of like keep people grounded in the fact that you're still the Jaguars.
I know. It's a realization. It's sort of the peaks and valleys of being a fan. So you have to appreciate the wins when you got them because you know they're not going to be. Yeah. It's going to be very short.
I mean, I get it. I've been a Bucs fan before. I mean, luckily we've had some good years, but they've a lot of really bad. My first football memory was, it was probably 1994. It was opening day at the old stadium, and the Bucs were playing the Kansas City Chiefs. And so if it was 1994, I was 10. And it was unbelievably hot. They had the metal seats in the old stadium, so I get it. It's terrible. There's a lot of down years for Florida sports teams in general.
Oh God, who are you telling? Except for the Gators, they had a very successful run, begrudgingly.
Yeah, but a lot of downtimes recently. They already want to fire this guy with their coach.
Thank God. Yeah. I just wish nothing but suffering to that fan base.
I agree.
I don't know that I've actually said who we're talking to right now. But Ryan Schreiber.
I'm Ryan.
Yeah, you work for Metafora. Are you co-founder or founder?
No.
What's your role with Metafora?
I'm the chief growth officer for Metafora. So Metafora is we do technology consulting, but we focus exclusively on transportation, logistics, supply chain. So more or less, we help our customers figure out what to do with technology in their business. And then we help them execute on whatever that strategy might be, technology and data, and then execute on that strategy, whatever it might be. We help them procure software, we help them implement software, we help them build software. So that's a little bit of what we do.
What did you do before Metafora?
So I come from the industry. I started my career at Echo Global Logistics about 15 years ago, just as a freight broker, slinging freight. I started a few companies in the space. So I started a couple of legacy brokerages. I started my own independent consulting business at one point, which was a huge failure, just unbelievable failure.
How so?
Well, I couldn't really get customers. I couldn't pay my bills, basically, And it was I really struggled with getting customers and also trying to deliver solutions for customers. I learned a really valuable lesson then. I was also a little half in, half out because I knew somebody would hire me and pay me money to, build their brokerage or run their brokerage or what have you. And so I didn't give my all to the thing. I kind of was half in, half out, trying to figure out, maybe trying to also find a job. And so I kind of learned a really valuable lesson there about being committed to the thing that you're trying to, especially if you're trying to start something from scratch. Even though I had started 2 businesses from scratch before, then I started a tech company. We started in 2016. We were a digital brokerage. We were applying generative AI. We didn't call it that back then, but we were applying generative AI instead of an app to do digital logistics. And then I've been with Metafora for about 5 years. So I come from industry. That's my background. It's the space is trucking and logistics.
I guess what was the catalyst of joining Metafora?
So what was the catalyst? So one other thing you learn when you do kind of startups, if you will, especially if when you're getting into bed with people, and if you raise capital from folks, you're getting into bed with your capital providers. If you have co-founders, you're getting married to these folks, and so. I was the freight guy, and my 2 other co-founders were more tech folks, and we just had some very, very fundamental disagreements about strategy, and so I decided to move on from the business, and unfortunately, like the business failed as not necessarily as a result, but also not as a result. And so I was trying to find the next thing that I wanted to do, um, and that was really hard for me. I hate freight brokerage. I hate trucking. I hate them in the sense that they're very broken businesses. The operating models are broken, and they really break people. I mean, they really do. And so I spent some time thinking about, like, what do I need out of the next opportunity? Like, I know what I bring to the table. Like, what do I need to get back from a company? And so I spent a lot of time thinking about that. I had a couple of opportunities, that I kind of was picking from, but Metafora really, like, it was a great team, still a great team, a great problem. Like, I'm a very curious person, so I like being able to solve different problems. And so it gave me the opportunity. Consulting gives you the opportunity to see different problems, see them manifest themselves differently, but also like move from from problems to problems. And so it gave an interesting vantage point. I thought it would give me an intellectually stimulating experience, which it has. So, I don't know that answered the question.
No, it does. I'm curious, though, what are some of those big problems that you're solving, or maybe exciting big problems that you're solving?
Today, some of the really interesting, everybody, I think it's human nature to trend chase a little bit. And so, of course, like all of our conversations over the last 12 months, all of them somehow touch on artificial intelligence, machine learning. Not that we weren't having those conversations before, but they certainly accelerated. And so some really interesting challenges when you think about the space of transportation and logistics. So our customers are shippers, they're transportation providers, they're freight technology companies, they're private equity that serve the space of trucking and logistics and supply chain. And so data is a big problem. So AI readiness, like there are areas where you can apply AI today. Some generative AI use cases around natural language processing can deliver value, but the reality is most companies don't have the data strategy. People talk about clean data. That's a thing for sure. It starts with actually like getting all of the data together that you need. When I walk into these businesses, a lot of times I look around and I just see all the data that's like lying on the ground. So as an example, like most folks really, really underestimate the value of the data from phone calls. And I don't mean what people are saying, but being able to like see who's calling, but to be able to tie together things like, this phone number is associated with this driver that's associated with this carrier that's on this shipment, and what was happening with that shipment when that driver called in. Giving context to data. And so, there's a lot you can learn about the behavior, what's kind of referred to as observed behavior of participants, and you need a really connected technology ecosystem, and you need a connected data strategy to kind of unlock some of those things. So AI readiness is a really interesting problem that we work on these days.
What are some tips, I guess, for companies who maybe want to, are thinking about that next step and thinking about, they've had AI shoved down their throat for the last year.
Totally.
So how should they prepare, I guess, for AI or data readiness?
Yeah, focus on integrations. Let me rephrase that. Focus on getting access to the data that you have. And then step one is, for the last 10 or 15 years, we've really focused on like get your hands on data and put it in front of a user. Okay, well, users have too much data to parse. Humans can't consume the amount of data that we're talking about. So in the absence of a clear path forward, they make things up, like genuinely, because there's enough data to validate or justify the decision on the back end. You can point to these data points as opposed to these data points. So step one, focus on getting access to as much different types of data as you can. Your phone, phone information. And a lot of vendors, especially if you have like off-the-shelf things, they have tools that underlie analytics tools that maybe you're not using to. But then make sure that those are connected, and then focus on a data strategy. So like, how are you? Master data management is a term. So focus on how you're managing your data, where the data is moving, and then how you can get access to that data, how that data is structured. Those are all they're obviously difficult and thorny problems, but AI and machine learning are very difficult things to do. It's not as simple as saying hey, okay, we're gonna do AI, and so there are certainly vendors that can help you with that. There are off-the-shelf tools that are making use of AI. Be careful with those. Like some folks are talking about AI that aren't doing AI, but also really getting access to that data, and then the most important thing is answer the question like, what do you want to do?
What are the use cases that you're
AI
seeing?
ML, exactly. AI and ML is not some like magic elixir. Like, what are the questions you want answered to, insight into? So, one of our large customers I've been talking to, they have a support staff, that's doing, kind of like shared services around, answering inbound phone calls for everything from like what's my load number, or excuse me, what's my delivery number to what's my payment status. Well, like analyzing those phone calls to understand what's the most common problems these people are solving, so that you can then automate from there. So really focus on like what are the business problems that you want to solve with technology. That's true of AI, machine learning. That's just true of anywhere you're going to apply technology. What's the business problem I'm solving? What's the question that I want to get answered? And then obviously get access to that data.
Are there any questions that they should be asking? Maybe they don't know the questions that they should be asking of their
Yeah.
data. Is there maybe like a framework that you work with your clients with?
They should probably ask themselves like, how do they free up money to work with somebody like me? But no, what a framework to work with the data? Yes, that's a really like I don't know that I got enough time to really walk through a framework, especially without some visuals. But I would say that really the key, kind of like one of the keys is making sure that the data is like the master data management, having a cohesive and consistent kind of like way of describing a piece of data. So like as an example, how is a shipment conceptualized from a data perspective within the entire ecosystem? And so, but there's no one size fits all answer for any of this. Like every business is discrete. There are certainly like ways in which these businesses are similar. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do anything together, or there wouldn't be a use of technology. But that, if you're a traditional 3PL doing distribution versus you're a shipper, doing chemical versus healthcare, or you're like a freight broker or a trucking company that's doing, last mile, how you think about pieces of data is going to differ by your business. And so there's no kind of like one size fits all answer for how to look at that. But yes, I mean, I think if these are things that you really want to do, educate yourself on, data management, and it doesn't require, there's ways to make incremental improvement that aren't millions of dollars of investment. And so certainly like that's a way to kind of like start to think about it. And a lot of it will start with kind of what your technology ecosystem looks like, and what tools you have, and how they're helping you get access to the underlying data, and how easy they are to tie together with other things.
One thing that's really helped change a lot of my marketing is using these AI note-taking apps that automatically join the meeting, transcribe it, and then I'm able to filter through and parse through a lot of that data with different customers.
Yeah.
Can a lot of 3PLs or carriers, maybe tech companies, can they utilize a similar approach with some of these tools?
Yeah, so like that's leveraging natural language processing. And so like again, my last business was using natural language processing to digitize like a lot of things within a brokerage. And absolutely, like NLP, especially because like you're not going to build, NLP is built on natural language processing. NLP is built on large language models. That's what we would refer to as deep tech. You're not going to build a new large language model. And the great thing about, where we are today with NLP is there are these large language models like ChatGPT that are commercially available. What you're going to do if you're going to build an application is kind of train that model on your use cases. But there are a lot of opportunities right now to apply NLP across your business, from chat related applications like automated phone calls or automated text messages, replies to emails, but also like less, but also parsing documents. So any place where you get text-based communication, right? I can read an email and understand what's happening. I can look at a POD and see an OS&D notification, and I can run automation off of that. So there are a ton of use cases like across a business that can solve those problems. So like, a good example is I had a customer when I was a freight broker. They used to say like every day they'd email me in the morning and say like, are we good on our loads today? That's all I would say. The email would say, are we good on our loads today? And I'd be like, yeah, Willie, we're good on our loads. And so then I was like, hey man, I can give you like a login to the TMS and like you can check all your loads. You can see who the carrier is, whatever. So I gave him this thing. I told him how to use it. I got an email every day. Hey, are we good on our loads today? And I was like, all right, man. Well, like here, I can automate this report. It'll email you a report that says this, that, and the other. And he would still email me every day. Are we good on our loads? And so I started emailing him every day before he emailed me. I started actually just creating an email that would go out and said, hey, we're good on our loads today. Why? Well, because not that he just wanted to hear me say it, but he had trust in the fact that if there was any information that wasn't salient to him or that wasn't readily available to him in an app, in an email, I would tell him, right? And so that's human-to-human communication. And then he also had the opportunity to ask me questions because he's engaging me. So there are a number of opportunities there. The biggest challenge that companies run into is in change management. And everybody hears about change management and talk about it. But it's really like, how are you going to, how does the business part of your business need to change to get value out of these things? That's less a problem with things like natural language processing than other areas, or than other types of applications of technology, because it doesn't ask users to change their behavior. Usually external users, especially external users. Like again, Willie didn't have to start logging into the TMS. He could just still keep emailing me. And I could say, yeah, Willie, these things are good. I could tell him load numbers. I could tell him if, who the carriers were. But change management still is definitely something to consider, and in what areas do you want to refocus your internal users now that you've created these other efficiencies? And what is their incentivization like? So how are they not compensation? Compensation is a subset of incentivization, right? Natural human incentivization. You've seen Office Space?
Yes.
What's, the line of, he's like, I have 3 bosses. So like my only goal is to not get hassled. If I make one mistake, 3 people talk to me about it. That's incentivization. His incentive, overriding incentive of everything else, even if the right decision would make the company more money or him more money, but it's the wrong process or whatever, he's going to do this thing because he's going to do whatever gets him not hassled because it outweighs every other incentive. And so that's certainly a big part of thinking about how to apply things like what you're describing. So that was a long-winded answer. But
No, it was great because it's helping me sort of connect the dots, and I'm sure for a lot of folks out there that have heard, a lot of these phrases, it's helping them too. Now, I'm curious, switching gears a little bit, with your company and all the people that you're working with, what are some of the most, I guess, aha moments or like exciting moments that you think is building for freight today and in the future?
I think that what I really like that I'm seeing in technology today is like there's a lot of disillusionment around technology that's available commercially right now. That's what I'm sort of sensing, and I'm actually kind of happy about that. And it's not the take of like, oh, there's too much like of these people in the industry who, this venture money and we need to clear out. The challenge is like, there's a lot of most of the time, for what it's worth, like when we go into a company and they're like, I hate my technology, 9 times out of 10, the reason they hate their technology is their fault, not the technology's fault. And yet like, that's still meaningful. That still matters, right? They're not getting the value that they look for. But a lot of like, I think the trend in the last 8-9 years that I've seen is all around automation. And it's skipped a step, which is user enablement, right? So like, how do I make a user do their job better? And so there's been a lot of focus on automating things that aren't working the way that the underlying entity actually wants them to work or needs them to work to effectively grow or scale their business. And so I think that's something that's been really exciting for me is people refocusing on how do I delight the human in the machine, right? How do I create space? And I think that's actually going to make automation better in the future, number one, because you're going to be able to automate things that are working. And number two, you have built more trust with your users that their job can change over time and that you can create space for them to do the things that humans can or should do. And that's not execute a transaction, which we've sort of co-opted the term relationship to mean do a transaction, but actually a relationship. Like talk about Blake Bortles on The Good Place or things like that. So that's something I'm really excited about as a trend in technology that I think that folks are starting to come around to.
And I think that, with especially during this interview, you are asking a lot of the deeper questions that I think helps companies save a lot of time and resources. I'm curious though, for a lot of maybe the other players or maybe some companies that are interested in working working with a company like yours, how do they know how to spot the bullshitters, like the bullshit tech, the bullshit consultants? How do you sort through that to get to the good stuff?
So, my experience in this industry, in large swaths of the industry, has been that you have some really great business leaders that know how to build really great businesses, and they know how to operate really great businesses. But they don't understand their businesses in academic sense. Like, you have to sort of like, and most consultants take true consultants, like management consultants, strategy consultants. They take like an overly academic approach, which is why people don't like consultants. They're like, you've never had to sit in our chair and make these decisions. Where like obviously some folks at Metafora have, and so we understand it very pragmatically. But there's also like an academic understanding. Like too often, companies are like they look at a technology partner or a consultant and they're like, hey, my arm hurts, and the doctor will be and then I'm using like a doctor analogy, and it's like, all right, great, well here's some aspirin, take this aspirin, your arm will feel better. When the truth is like they're having a heart attack, and they kind of like, if you understand you have to understand how the body works, right? But if you're just a person and you go to the doctor, you're like, my arm hurts, I expect that you are going to know. And so I think that the key really is like really, really drilling down to try and understand better their business, and keep asking kind of questions, keep peeling back the onion, because the most obvious answer or reason that something is or isn't the way that it is usually not the reason that it's that way. The pain is usually somewhere else. The challenge is usually somewhere else. And so I think that's certainly step one. What are the challenges that you're trying to solve? And then ask your potential partners really difficult questions about their experience, like what they've actually done, what types of problems they've solved, what impacts they've had, and ask questions about what would make them disqualify a customer. When we help customers select software, that's one early question that we'll ask a potential vendor. Hey, who's a wrong fit customer? And if their answer is a wrong fit customer is totally other industry, not super helpful, right? I want to know what's a customer that kind of looks like me, but that's a bad fit for you. And that's true, I think, of consultants, especially some of the like individual consultants, as much as it is technology vendors and whatnot. So I think that those are really kind of important things, is really get smarter on how your business really operates in a more theoretical or academic sense, and marry with your pragmatic, really valuable operational experience.
That's a pro right there. You just brought it back full circle from the first question to the last, or one of the last questions. Now we're here at Manifest the Future of Supply Chain and Logistics. So what's your favorite thing that you've seen so far?
So I'm not really a dog person. That being said, the puppy thing was cool, and I wanted to bring this up since you had it on your LinkedIn, and you had the guy who runs it.
Dan Reese.
Dan.
Yeah.
You had Dan on and asked about the puppy thing. I think they should do like a puppy alumni event, right? So they should bring back the dogs.
Oh.
Bring back.
Where are they now?
Where are they now? Like 2 years ago, dogs. So you can have like a puppy pen and like a dog pen. I've just had some really great conversations. It's they've done a great job of bringing a lot of folks together, and so I don't know that anything I've seen is really cool, but I think the one thing that they do better than any other conference is giving a place and a voice for early stage companies. I have a real passion for that. Our customers are always kind of like interested in what is up and coming, and they do an incredible job at that. So talking to some of these earlier stage companies that I either have talked to before or just got introduced to me, I think that's been a lot of fun.
Well, Ryan, it was awesome to finally get you on the
I
show.
know
This
yeah.
will be the first,
It really
hopefully,
hurt
of
my
many.
feelings. That's why I wasn't.
So, he's been invited several times.
That's
but
not
we just
true.
never
Yeah.
formulated it. It's
I
been
know
one of
that's
those, like,
true.
we got to get you on, we got to get, and then it just,
Yeah, I think that's
you
a
know,
lie, but
it is,
anyway.
it's the truth.
Duval.
Yes, till we die.
Yeah.
Literally die.
Well, thanks for having me, finally.
Absolutely. Where can folks follow you, follow more of your work? Where's your favorite social media platform of choice?
I'm not a big X person, although I am on X _user prime, and there's a longer story to that one. But LinkedIn's a great place to find me, Ryan B. Schreiber, and kind of I never hesitate to reach out. I always love talking to new people.
Heck yeah. Thank you, Ryan, for coming
Yeah,
on the show.
thanks.
Finally.
Finally.
Thanks for answering the
Yeah.
request.